The Stranger, Months of Howling, Year 2. Alone, the snow did not bother her, and anyway, the temperature wasn't particularly cold anymore. You would have to be really sensitive to that kind of stuff to feel the difference, Koza mused to herself as she leaned against a tree that had been pelted by snow, half frozen and cut apart by ice, and yet still clung tenaciously to life. She did not have to wait a particularly long time. Despite the fact that the tree was far too small to hide another human-ish form behind it, Blue arrived with a flourish of his cape. And of a small, noticeably familiar fake mustache.
Earug, not that again. People gonna think you're up to no good if you've got lip fuzz like that going on. Remove it, stat.
His mild laughter took clear delight in her consternation as he dodged just out of arm's length, finally deigning to remove it himself, where it disappeared from his palm in a flash of blue light.
Maybe I am up to no good. Or maybe I just have fantastic taste in facial hair. It could really be either one, but I'm inclined to leave it a mystery. So, is there some reason you've been walking in circles around this tree, looking lost?
Blue smiled winsomely, hands against his waist.
After all, I've heard rumor that a certain heavy metal settlement is having quite the celebration. Well, celebration/war meeting, but I'm sure your friends miss you.
She frowned, looking incredibly glum.
Oh, I don't know about that. But you know, I'm not really one for parties, too nice for my taste, and I'm a little older than them, but not old enough to have any neat wisdom or anything, so I thought I'd just stretch my legs for a bit.
Despite her dour impression, Blue refused to stop staring at her with an amused, wry expression, and finally she burst out laughing.
All right, you got me. Nicotine is a hell of a thing, and I was kind of hoping you would be so kind as to see if you couldn't find some mysterious. Declined.
It was frustrating how politely she had been short-stopped, but Koza proceeded regardless.
Well, failing that, I kind of had a few other questions. Nothing important, of course, just stuff I've been mulling over. Aha, hee.
Despite the fact the ground had been crushed and minced and frozen, a little bit of color was starting to return to it. Nothing was growing that she could see, but that was just the way of winter, no matter where you were. Soon, buds would bloom and plants would return to life, and with them,
this dragon guy.
Holding a hand to his face, Blue tried to hide his smile. Given that it never seemed to budge from his face, the effort was a failure.
Very blunt today? Dragunov. He's quite a wild card. I don't think he's all that bad myself, but my opinion has been known to fluctuate. No, really, the one you should be worried about is the guy you just missed out on. I imagine he's quite lonely, you know. Dragon Guy II. Lazarus. I can't believe I didn't mention his name earlier, so sorry. When you're done messing with me, Lazarus. When he and Dragunov are both up, what happens then? Really?
Both were silent as they walked. The sky had stopped howling and was a clear, pristine blue. Dragunov was nowhere to be seen, for he would likely only appear at signs of life from his ancient rival, and when those signs were made manifest. Blue hummed to himself, head in one hand.
I suppose that'll probably be the end of the world, since it's impossible to make friends out of such long-suffering beasts.
Visible relief flooded across her face and she lit an imaginary cigarette, which wasn't quite the same, but at least she felt a bit better about it.
Great. Well, that's one mystery out of the way. The second's a bit more personal, though, kind of a serious question, so I'm counting on you not to make too much fun of me.
He was silent, and either interested enough in her missteps or willing enough to feign interest that she didn't feel awkward, and she was fine with either.
Binky and Boleslava. They're not exactly aware of who I am, and I'm not entirely sure I'm the friend they deserve. If the world ends, they'll end up with other friends, yeah.
Chuckling, Blue shook his head.
Is that all? I'd worried you had fallen head over heels for me. But I have good news for you, if you'll trust me, I'm sure that's what will happen. Which is why you should make the most of the time you have with them, not go digging for answers that can't possibly help you.
Both shared a hearty laugh at the expense of the retreating snow, which seemed to retreat from her every step, and which he seemed to step just above. And perhaps it was laughter that, if had been heard by a third party, might have sounded somewhat.
Thanks for coming out all this way on a whim, Blue. You're incredibly reliable, and I don't know what I'd do without you. Guess I'll go try to be a better friend to them. Plus, if we're honest, I'm kind of interested to see what that motley collection of people can cook up, probably something pretty tasty.
She laughed, and it was impossible to say, but her eyes might have narrowed very slightly.
Oh, what the heck? Since you're so kind and indulgent. One more.
Beneath them, a cliffside path had begun to become visible where the escaping snow had shed the illusion of the land being a solid chunk of stone, and the cold sea so far below them no longer roiled with harsh winds, but shone a translucent and silvery blue.
If I killed that old guy, would anything interesting happen?
Chapter end.